My name is Goodman Manyanya Phiri. I'm here to record my life story. One of these good days I'll be dead, or I'll be in prison for a long time. You know, being victimized by Jacob Zuma, you know, who happens to occupy the highest office in South Africa. Yeah, because my only crime is reporting corruption at work. South Africa has got laws. It's a constitutional democracy, but Zuma would like to see it as a democracy that is ruled by Mandela. Even when he's dead, Mandela will rule it. Relatives of Mandela may not be reported corruption against, like one lady called Tomizoda Bobelozina. I may not talk which department where she works, but that woman committed corruption, and then I got a string of cases that Mr. Zuma is victimizing me for. He'd like to get me in prison or dead. And so I want to tell my story before I die. Because if I don't tell my story, I will end up like the founder of the ANC, Pixliga Isagaseme, who's actually a second cousin to me maternally. And nobody will know who I was. So here am I, Goodman Manyanya Phiri, born the 4th of May 1961, at a farm called the Brook. You drive a car from Johannesburg in South Africa here. You go into Swaziland, by road that is, and you'll reach a place called... You go into Swaziland. If you go via the border gate called the Oshoek, or also called Ngwani, you'll find a place called a farm along the road called the Brook. That's where I was born. Paternally, my father is Bright Phiri. The guy is born in Malawi, a place, if I have it right, Rumpi district, between Karonga and Nkate Bay. That's where my father is born. We are, as Malawians, belonging to an ethnic group known as the Tumbuka. The Tumbukas are also known as their cousin to the Tonga. So if I stand in front of you here, you ask me, what's your ethnic group? Before I go there, I must tell you my praise name. I am Phiri, Matanje, Wampuno, Gandunyungu. Matanje was a king in ancient South Africa. You see, the entirety of Southern Africa and the entirety of the Zambezi Basin. You can move from the Congo till Cape, what we have as Cape Town today, was ruled by Phiri kings. I'll give you a time to ask. Just hold on, let me just finish the point. So, the Phiri branch that ruled South Africa in the ancient Azania or Zion was the Matanje branch. So that's where I come from. People always wonder why sometimes we call South Africa Azania or Zion. It is because that's where all civilization came from. All humanity was born in South Africa. That is a scientific fact. And all, everything that matters in the world today, you call it civilization, whatever, started in this South Africa. It's a holy land. It's not a land for prostitutes. Some people, once they have power, political power, they think they can go around the world looking for prostitutes and we're going to forgive them because South Africa is a land of prostitutes. This is not Babylon. This is Zion. When King David in the Bible, could have been my Bible lessons, they escaped me. But between David and Solomon, one of the two guys, named the city after, his acquisition of the kingship, the crown. He said Zion. He was remembering the origins of the Jews or the Phoenicians who came from Azania. Because Azania and Zion is the same thing. Because in the past, people of old, they never used, vowels. They just wrote ZN, Zulu November. And then you could say Zion, or you could say Azania. So that is it. I don't want to dwell there. I just want to talk about this guy. Good man, fathered by Bright Phiri, born in Malawi. Bright fathered by Jacob Phiri. He's born and bred in Malawi. He's a Zulu speaker, that guy. I met him in 1982 because I visited Malawi to see my grandfather. Very light-skinned. He could speak Zulu. That's where I could see that our origins in what you call today KwaZulu Natal. Jacob is the son to Mazire Ankunda. Mazire Ankunda is the Tumbuka language for the eggs of a dove. Mazire Ankunda, the eggs of a dove. That is my great-grand paternally. And then Maziri is the son to Pika Malaza Phiri. If you go to history book, you'll find that the commander of the forces of Zwangendaba was Pika Malaza. He had a name. We don't know the name anymore, but he was given the name Pika Malaza by the Nyasa people because he was not only the commander of the forces of Zwangendaba, but he was also the Surgeon General. Before they could go to war, he had to treat them, give them the right potions for them to be able to fight the enemy. So the Nyasa people called him Pika Malaza. Pika in Nyasa means to cook. Malaza means potions. So wayepheka izintelezi ngesizulu kwathiwa uPikamalaza. That's where I come from. So Pikamalaza was born in KwaZulu-Natal. They are the guys around the early 19th century. They stood against Shaka Zulu's rise. They come from Umhlabuyalingana, Kwangwanase, and all those areas from what you call today KwaZulu-Natal. Or rather the northern KwaZulu-Natal. So that's my background. So if you say I'm a Zulu, you are right. My ancestors were there in Zululand long before Zwide, long before Tingswayo, in ancient Azania. And they were kings there. So you can call me a Zulu, that is fine. You can call me a Nyasa, that is fine. Because I've got about 2 grannies paternally who were from Malawi. You can call me a Tonga. Tonga, it's fine. What I know my roots. But after knowing my roots, I also know that there's no difference between me and the Boer, an Afrikaner. We've got the same blood. It doesn't matter who you are. There are people who are called South African colored. These are my blood also. You can take me to America where I might end up going to live. You know, I'm being so much troubled by guys like Jacob Zuma. Maybe I will decide one day if the American government or even the Russian government says, or even the Chinese, I might even get a good taste of what dog tastes like to eat dog. I'll live in China because we're all originating from Litonga, Beluhlanga. Everybody is from the palm tree in this country, this holy land of South Africa. So I'm here to tell my story. I'm done with my father's side. Let me go to my mother's side. The woman who gave birth to me is a maiden of the Mavimbela. They are well trusted by the by the Swazi royal house. They are also known as Ingubo Yengwenyama, the Mavimbela, because they are the tailors who make clothing for the king. Besides that, when you look at Swazi history, you'll find that the Zion Christian Church, its roots, if not most of the roots, are from Swaziland. There was a Mavimbela who started Zion Church there. During the Second World War, he is the guy who stood with a rod. I'm told it was a silvery rod to protect Swaziland, to talk to God, to protect Swaziland against attack by the forces of Hitler. So I'm very rich maternally as well. But that's my mother. My grandmother is a princess. She is Elina Mafete, a maiden from the Dlamini royal house. She comes from the royal house of Umjindini, who were sent by, the ancestor to one of the gentlemen with me here. They were sent by Mavuso there to go. Mavuso is the son of Somhlolo. Somhlolo is a direct, ancestor to me, if you like. Somhlolo, that is supposed the first gave birth through his wife in Ndlovukati, Ulatwala. That's where I come from. Ulatwala, there was Prince Kengana. There was a number of other princes as well, but I want to talk about my own, where I come from as such. And then Prince Kengana gave birth to 2 sons. Prince Folozi, who by the way is the grandfather to former mayor of Tshwane around here, Father Sbanso Mkhatshwa, Folozi. But the younger brother to Folozi was Sigeza. Sigeza is the father to Elina Mafete Ulangozi. That's my mother. I think I'm done now with that part. Look, I born 61. Around the year 66, my grandmother, the princess, said, come, took me from the son-in-law, the Malawian, said, come and live with me. That's why I learned about the history of the ANC. Because remember, the Queen Mother of the Swazis, who is related to my grandmother, they are the people who started the ANC. Today, people say the ANC started in the Eastern Cape. People like Mr. Jacob Zuma, they say the home of the ANC is the Eastern Cape. The ANC does not have a home. The ANC was started by a man called, he's a second cousin to me, Pistika Isakasen, because he got married traditionally with a daughter of Labotsibeni, Princess Lozinja. And there was a son there by the name of my cousin Uzwangendab. They started it. Mr. Zuma will talk a lot about King Talinjab of the Temple, where Mandela comes from. He says there were 50 cows or 20 cows, I don't know. But how do you compare 20 cows with 200 cattle? The first newspaper of the ANC, Abantu Batu, was supported from as early as 1912 until around 1940, when this group from the Eastern Cape, like Sisulu, Mandela, they came with their tribalism. I'll talk in another video about that. They killed the newspaper of the ANC, but they were supported by my first cousin, Labotsibeni. But that's by the way. But I've talked about my mother's side, my father's side. I just want to talk now. Now my grandmother sits with me, teaching me the history of the ANC. Around 1968, my grandmother gave me to my maternal aunt, Upela, married to the Mnisi clan. And so I lived with them at a place called Lotero, a town where my father used also to work. So I went there, I lived there, I started school there. My what do you call it before? The crash. That's where I entered the school. Around 1969, I ended up at a town called Amsterdam. That's where I went to school now. My first teacher was called Mr. Nkosi. I attended school there. And it was nice. I was around seven years old. 69. I was 8 actually. That is that. And then I moved school there in 1971. I moved to another school. If you move around Mpumalanga next to Amsterdam, there's a big dam they called Westudam. That's where there's a place there, a farm where I attended school there for my if you like standard. We used to call them standard 1, you know. And then for standard 2, which is grade 4, I moved down to town of Lotere. I attended school there, closer again with my grandmother. And then standard 5, I moved from Lotte, I went to Amsterdam again, now in town. That's where I attended school in town there. And I had a good luck, of course, to be in most of my schooling years with my elder brother, who was 3 years my senior, a guy called Mr. Jackson Phiri. So I had a good of luck because there was a lot of protection. In any case, so I did my standard 5 in Amsterdam, Italy. And then that is where, for the first time, I met people of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, the PAC. For some reason, I think my brother had he was in cahoots, so he understood PAC. That's why they came. And then because my brother was actually an operative for the PAC as well. So I got interested in their politics. And I was like, look, I'm an ANC person culturally. I understand the ANC. I feel, and I still say even today, there's no organization to compare with the ANC, because that's the mother of all struggle, not only in South Africa, but in the entire continent. It's more than 100 years old as of today. So, but I liked the politics of the PAC. So I joined the PAC then. But I was still too young, a school-going child. Then I moved, in 1977, I moved to a new school in Empuleni, next to Bad Plus. There was an asbestos mine, they called him Soli. Asbestos mine. It's now, defunct. Asbestos has been, proscribed, if you like, from the world. Nobody's allowed to mine asbestos because of the bad what you call. So that's where I went for my school, but I'm already an operative. I worked as a courier for the guerrillas. When they had a parcel to send, I don't know what I was carrying. I was a little boy attending school. Take this to Mr. So-and-so, you take it there, and that is that. So my service as such, as a freedom fighter, starts in the year 1976. Now, my brother, you can count from 1976 as a security member. By the way, there's a judge order against me. Judge Webster said I cannot talk about the place in government of Zuma where I work. So I'm not going to talk where I work, but I'm a security member. But there's victimization, there's tribalism, Mandela's Xhosa tribalism, not the Xhosas. It's what Mandela says are Xhosas. I'll talk about that in some other video. But that is that. Relatives of Mr. Mandela are running the show now in the security department, and they are busy victimizing other people, including myself. And Mr. Zuma has been put into that pocket, and that's what is happening. But now, in short, around 1980, not around, actually 1980, I completed my school. I was at Kanyamazane in Nelspruit, a place also known as Ligazi. That's where I did. I think I want to hear my brother. Is there a problem?
No.
Okay, I thought you must stop. Okay, I was just listening to a gentleman here directing me. So I completed my matric in 1980. Mark you, I'm already a guerrilla. I'm trained inside the country about the use of firearms, and I'm doing work for the liberation movement. But something happened in 1982, or rather 81. I was done with school, and for some reason, I did not go to university. I actually worked because my father got deported in 1981. So he was sent by the poor system because he was called a Kwere. They sent him back to Malawi. But this man was a business person. He was a lumberjack, cutting wood for that is used in the gold mines here. He was working with timber around Emelo. So I ended up now. My elder brother was ill by then, so I ended up having to take over the job for my father to keep the family alive. That's why I couldn't go to varsity. But nonetheless, 81, 82, that's when I went to visit my grandfather in Malawi. And then 83, I came back, I was a teacher. 2 schools in Mpumalanga, the GEM primary school, I taught them. And then there was also another school called Kutsala. It's in Mayflower, my hometown, in Mpumalanga, also known as Mpuluzi, Mayflower, that is. Then I taught there, but something happened there. There was, kind of fracas, or fracas. I don't know where the word comes from. But I had a fight with the principal of the school who was busy molesting a school child. It was unfortunate. But that was resolved by the school inspectors, who found in my favor that, we need to protect school children, that teachers must not sexually exploit school children. But then APLA decided, the Azanian People's Liberation Army decided that I was a security risk for them. That's why they ordered me to leave the country. So I left the country in 1983. The date was the 11th of December 1983. Mayflower is a stone's throw from the border with Swaziland. So I walked over and I found a certain family, the name escapes me, of that family, and they helped me to get to Mbabane. Mbabane, the Swazi people advised me not to stick around there because there were many agents of this apartheid government then. And so I ended up going to Maputo. So I crossed the border to Maputo at Namahasha. After crossing there, I was then naturally arrested by Frelimo. I didn't know even a word of Portuguese, so they put me in jail there for 6 months. And so they asked me, why are you in Mozambique? Oh, I'm looking for the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. But that time I didn't know that, the government there, it was very partisan. They didn't choose. Unlike Tanzania was not partisan. They took anybody who was from South Africa. But that government there, which was, a kind of a satellite, if you like, to Moscow, they didn't like, other organizations that were not pro-Moscow. Apparently the PAC had its own problem, or rather challenge, or choice to say we don't want to side with America or with the Soviet Union. So that was the price they paid, because Samora Machel did not allow the PAC in Mozambique. So ultimately I ended up now going. Anything?
There is a sign.
What sign?
The water is playing now.
Yeah, but let me finish my story, okay?
Alright.
Allow me to finish, my brother, please, man. He's going far away already.
Consider.
Yeah, hold on. Now I ended up then staying there in that prison there for 6 months because I was waiting for the PAC, which was not existent in Mozambique. Finally, there came a man called Mr. Jacob Zuma. He asked me one question. Are you not a child of the ANC? I said, I am a child of the ANC because my family is all ANC. Then he said, what's your problem then coming with me? That's how I left the prison then for the ANC camps. Then I ended up in Mozambique as I was. Then I was given what you call shown an Aeroflot. Those were the flights for the Russians. Zuma put me there. I ended up in Angola. In Angola, I stayed for only a year. And then Comrade Chris Hani recommended that I be taken to Tanzania because I had some background of teaching to help the students of Solomon Mahlangu Freedom College. So I ended up there, and that is that. Yeah, I stayed there for a short time, but I didn't like the goings on there in the camps. So I decided to go back to my organization, the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. That was in 1987. I was welcomed back in Dar es Salaam, and I worked there at the radio as a broadcaster through Radio Tanzania Dar es Salaam. And that is that. That's what I did until 1994. My nom de guerre, in terms of while I was working for the PAC, was Mordecai King on the radio. But my formal name of the struggle was Franz Puguje. So that's what the records will tell you about me. I'm Franz Puguje. If you check the security records, that's my name. While I was with the ANC, the name I was using was Terence Kwabe. So many comrades were in the struggle will remember Terence Kwabe if they were with me around the year 1983 until 87. Yeah. I thought I must just check a bit of the records here just to confirm a few other things. Now, there's a lot that happened in my life while I was in exile. I will prepare another video for that, to talk about that, issues of tribalism. And that's where I will actually point out to a few other things. But for now, I think that is my life. 94, I came back. There was still an issue of the conflict ahead about tribalism. And then I was being victimized left and right. I ended up taking about 4 years of my precious time being, disallowed to join South African security forces by the Mandela government because Mandela was angry because the Eastern Cape, people who speak East Coast like Mandela, they were, victimizing members of other organizations. Yes. Right. I just want to show my certificate. I want to show my certificate here. This is my certificate of membership to the Azanian People's Liberation Army. I'm not talking something that is out of the head. Tomorrow they'll get me killed, guys like Zuma, because Zuma now is into the pocket of my enemies. So I don't want tomorrow people to say this guy was just lying. That is me there. Just want to show that. And then the other thing that you must check on, I think that would be that. So I only joined South Africa Security Forces in 1998. I think by that time, Thabo Mbeki was in full force in South Africa. And then 1998 and up to 2001, that's where I had a conflict now because I discovered corruption that was going on. I would like to end this thing as it is now. As I'm standing here, I am under a suspension by Mr. Zuma. He is suspending me from work because I reported corruption done by one Tomizoda Bobelozini, who is a cousin to both Mr. Nelson Mandela at work, and Temba Temotin Matanzima. I need not mention the department because there's an order of the judge against that. That would